Okay then, in this video we will discuss Amazon VPC, which is an acronym for Virtual Private Cloud. So what is VPC or Amazon VPC? Well, Amazon VPC allows you to launch AWS resources such as EC2 instances in a virtual network that you have defined. So the question is here, why do we need this Amazon Virtual Private Cloud? We need it because it will be your dedicated virtual network. So if you don't know what a network is, or if you used to know it but kind of forget it now, let me explain what a network is. So in simple terms, a computer network is a set of connected computers. So for instance, on this image, so the computers are connected with each other using a network. And also, for instance, the internet is also one type of network, which is called global network, right? So, but how about Amazon VPC? So in the case of VPC, it's gonna be EC2 instances. So, but there are also some other components which are part of the VPC. So let me explain them. So first of all, you can launch EC2 instances into your VPC. Plus, you can specify an IP address range for the VPC. So that means you can specify an IP address range, which is very nice. And I will show that one in practice later on. Then you can add subnets. So it might be very confusing right now because we haven't covered these topics yet. But for now, just understand that you can add subnets. I will explain the subnets in a minute. So then you can also configure route tables, security groups, etc., etc. For instance, like net gateways. So now let's first of all talk about subnets. So what is a subnet? Well, a subnet enables you to group instances based on your security and operational needs. So again, why and how? Well, there are two types of subnets. So first of all, public, which is a subnet that has access to the internet through an internet gateway. And the second one is private subnet, which doesn't have access to the internet. That's why it's called private subnet. All right. So, and they are really useful because once you have your VPC, you can then define your subnets in the VPC. And you can have two types of subnets. So the first one is public subnet and the second one is private subnet. So let me explain them in more detail using a diagram. And for that, I will use official website of the AWS. So if you want to open this diagram, so what you need to do is you need to go to the official website of the AWS, documentation, and then here documentation. And then on the network and content delivery, you have this one, Amazon VPC. So you need to open that, user guide. And the second one, how Amazon VPC works. So, and if you scroll down a little bit, you have this nice diagram which explains VPC and subnets. So let me explain this diagram. So here you have AWS, right? So then within AWS, you have VPC, which stands for Virtual Private Cloud. So, and then inside VPC, you have availability zones. So in this case, there are two availability zones. So, and then, so in each availability zone, there are two subnets. So they are default subnets. So why they are called default subnets? Because they are provided by AWS. So that means when you create an account with AWS, so AWS gives you default VPC and default subnet, one default subnet in each availability zone. So in this case, within VPC, we have two availability zones, and inside availability zones or inside VPC, we have two subnets. So default subnet 1 and default subnet 2. All right. So, and then inside subnets, we have one EC2 instance. I mean, in each subnet, we have EC2 instance. So this one, EC2 instance, EC2 instance. And so these EC2 instances have access to the internet. So how do I know that they have access to the internet? Because there are two other additional components in here, as you can see, a router and internet gateway, right? So this one, router, has route tables. So for instance, this one. So it's a main route table. It's in here. So these route tables, they determine where network traffic should be directed. And for instance, in this case, if EC2 instances wants to have access to the internet, they go to the router, and then a router directs them to the internet gateway, so which facilitates access to the internet. All right. So for instance, in here, in another example, for instance, we have here AWS and then VPC, and within that VPC we have two subnets, and in each subnet we have three EC2 instances, and there is a router which directs traffic, right? But there is no internet gateway. So that means this VPC or subnets or these EC2 instances doesn't have access to the internet. So, and if I scroll down again, here there are two subnets. So we have AWS VPC and we have two subnets, and the first subnet, subnet 1, has access to the internet, but the second one doesn't have. So how do I know that one? So here again you have a route table. So for instance, this route table is attached to this subnet 2, and it doesn't have internet gateway, while the first one has access to the internet through internet gateway. So it's written in here IGV, which stands for internet gateway. So we'll talk about these IP addresses later on. For now, what you need to understand is, so you have AWS, then you can have VPC, and inside VPC you can create subnets. So in these examples we have only one subnet in each availability zone, but it's not always the case. So what I want to say is, in one availability zone you can create several subnets. All right, so it's very easy to understand. So now let's continue. So, and the last thing is, by default, an instance in a non-default VPC is not assigned a public IP address. What it wants to say is, so by default, as I mentioned before, by default you are given a VPC, right? So if you create your own VPC, it's gonna be non-default. So that means if you launch an instance in a non-default VPC, it will not have a public IP address. So I will show that one in example. So we will see everything one more time in the next video, where in which I will explain everything in more detail again. All right. So don't worry if you don't understand these concepts in detail. So we'll cover them again in the next video. So that's it regarding this video, and I will see you in the next one.